Bonjour à tous.
Welcome back to you all. We are going to start with the pitches and we'll be heard by a jury.
You will have certain presentation in English. Dans ces cas, n'hésitez pas à switcher.
Please do not hesitate to switch English, French, translation, whatever you need. So I will be your commentator for today. We have a distinguished panel of jury members with 6 people. And I will ask you to get up Ivan Chapman, which is the CEO of Portmalt, Pierre Angot from Hectare France, Clotilde Hanez, Business Angel.be, Be Angels, Pauline de Valke, ABN AMRO from the Netherlands, Yannick van Koppenholle from Sopartec in Belgium, and Priscilla Rosé-Pages from AgriLife Studio. So those are the members of the jury. We will listen to pitches. Every candidate will have 5-6 minutes to present his speech, and then maybe 4, 5, 6 questions from the jury members based on what they've just heard. So we will have various startups who will present their pitches. We will have Laetitia Ouspantour from Hello Wine. From France, Simon Collier-Bioxol from Belgium, Chiara Guidi from Bicos in Belgium, Franck Garnier from Evergreen, France, Frédéric Peilleron from Cascade, France, and Alexandre Bocage, Veragro, France. We will start without delay, and so I will ask Laetitia to join me on stage and present us her startup. Thank you very much. I will be doing this in French. If you enjoy life, if you love conviviality, if you love friends, then you most certainly wondered, I'd like to be able to talk about wine, and if I was able to choose it, well, that would be even better. However, it's really complicated. And if I could do it with France, that would be even better. And for 88% of French people, wine represents sharing, friendliness, and friends. And for 29% among those, buying wine and talking about wine is a hassle and source of discomfort. Good afternoon, I am Laetitia Ouspantour. I am a wine expert. I'm coming from Bordeaux and I train 4,000 people a year to talk about wine. And I invented a product that is going to revolutionize distribution of wine thanks to the purchase through experience. I already got an award in 2022 and I have this product that is presented, comes in the form of a box. And we call it Korea wine, and it contains all the material that allows you to follow a degustation session, and then you have small pipes, and you can make the wine that corresponds to you. And from your creation, you will receive a document that shows what perfumes you like best, what tastes you like. Can you imagine purchase a wine like you can choose a perfume? And our objective is to become the wine distribution leader thanks to an experience. This product is going to bring revolution to wine purchase. How? First, you get a box, or you get it as a present. And then the participants communicate to us how their wine is, or what tastes it's made of. Thanks to that, we collect the data, and we're going to exploit those data. So we will offer to the participants the wine that match their tastes, And then we offer them to experience new boxes which present new wines from other regions. And then, of course, we are targeting those who enjoy life, who enjoy friends, and everything that goes around touristic activities. So we will offer travels, we will offer degustation courses, and so on. We already distributed 400 boxes. We have 10% return rate, which means 10% of the participants who bought wine based on our proposals, who bought other boxes so as to make a new experiences. We are present in 15 points of sales in Bordeaux and Paris, in wine cellars, in travel retails, in drugstores, and of course online. So I am not on my own, and I like seeing this slide behind me. So there's a team behind me, supporting me, helping me, and if I am here today, it is thanks to them too. However, they have not hired full-time in this company. And this is where I need you. And this is where I am launching a call. I need 500,000 euros to enlarge and broaden my sales team. I need more data experts, so I need someone who's able to collect the data and to exploit those data. And I need a product officer so as to broaden the panel of products and maybe offer champagnes, for example, or other types of wines. We have various initiatives. We have Raffineur, which is like a present website. We also have exportations that are going to be implemented with the Netherlands and the United States. So do not miss this super opportunity. This product is going to bring revolution to wine production because thanks to Crea Wine, you do not have wine, you do not drink it, you live the wine. So please come and enjoy this unforgettable experience, and let's take care of all those wine-loving people who are only waiting for us. Thank you.
Les questions. Là, voilà, c'est très bien. I'm listening to if you have any. Il faut toujours quelqu'un qui commence, donc je me permets.
We always need a first person. So I come from Bordeaux. So we all have heard about the wine nose, this ability to smell the wine. So you also want people to understand what wine is. So a practical question, where does the wine come from? Because I suppose you only use one species of grapes. And then how are you going to scale up your wine based on the species that you're using? I haven't been talking about sustainable part, but I selected some wine, so from small exploitation, small facilities. We have a more neutral label, and on the back of the label, you can read the characteristics of the wine producers. So I believe I answered your first question. And then how am I going to scale up, and how am I going to choose my wine varieties based on my scaling up? So I think that today I assess that 80% of the buyers wish to explore wine perfumes further. So in Bordeaux red wines, you have several perfumes, but we do have 400 varieties to make wine. And so I'm going to look for people who produce other type of wine, maybe white wine, rosé, champagne, Porto, and so on and so on. And about the dimension of what we offer, So we can work on the supply aspect, on the market, and we can see that some winemakers want to find their own wine in that box. And so they can also customize their offer thanks to our box. And it's also a gift that is a little bit more original than just buying a bottle of wine. So we can customize the offer with winemakers. And then the wine knows what is the specialty of my product. It's that is a shared experience, experienced by several people. That's why I'm talking about friends and about the joy of life. And there is the experimental aspect that is really, really at the core of what I offer here.
Hello. Thank you for the answer. It is insightful. My question was about the funding. You look for 500,000 euros, mainly to recruit people. But what will be achieved with this funding?
Yes.
So where will you be in 1 year? I don't know what the time frame is.
Yes. The amount I'm asking for is not only to employ people, it's also to buy and purchase in big volume the box. I can put down the cost of price down to 10 euros. Because today it costs me 25 euros, and if I buy, because I buy by hundreds, so if I buy by thousands, I can put down the price to 15 euros. So can you imagine the impact on year one, for example, I'm on 3,000 units. So can you imagine if I can put down my cost of price to 10 euros and earn 10 euros by box? So that's the first point. And to answer your question, I'll be, according to the business plan, I'll be making money from the third year, and we will be able to be on almost 1.8 million euros, and we can produce up to 35,000 boxes because the depth of the market, once again, is not only France. France is like a small garden, and I consider this product ready to be exported, because that's the key to rise the sales.
Oui, vous m'entendez? Oui.
Thank you very much. Maybe I didn't understand. I think you mentioned the 10% of return rate, so that means 90% of customers do not come back. So how could you increase that? That's a very good question. I believe we need more marketing, which means more money. So I won the LEPI competition, so there's that kind of experience. However, we need to pimp up the whole experience, so we need to really work on the marketing aspect. And myself, I am a wine expert, and I believe that we need to make the product even more attractive. Thank you very much.
Maintenant, je vais passer la parole à...
I would like to give the floor to Simon Collier from Bioxol, Belgium.
Donc, bonjour à tous. Donc, je m'appelle Simon Collier.
Hello, I am Simon Collier. I am agricultural engineer, and I am a scientific, and I have a passion for microbiology applied to agriculture. I am a scientist, yes, but I also am an IT specialist, also have a management degree, and I want to understand markets and the dynamics. I want to talk about Bioxol. What is it? It is a startup coming from UC Louvain. and they want to offer alternatives to pesticides. So the 9 last years, I got interested to these new biological approaches with more respect for the nature, with a sustainability approach, and we want to efficiently control the diseases in the field, like the blight, like mildew. I'm talking about the mildew, and that is intentional because mildew, be it for potatoes or for wine grapes and so on, it represents a whole huge quantity of pesticides and fungicides. So we assess that 30% of fungi controlling agents are used against blight. And that is most certainly true in Belgium because our sector of potatoes are being largely represented. And so you say Louvain got interested into beneficial microorganisms, bacteria that could microbiologically control those microorganisms coming from mildew. And so we selected more than 2,800 candidates as microorganisms. We could prove their efficiency in the laboratory, but also in the fields. That means we identified 14 controlling agents with very high potential. And in parallel to those researches, I wanted to understand how could these positive controlling agents, how did they work? How can they fight the blight, the mildew? And that's how I could identify natural substances which are helping this biological control function. And I led these researches thanks to the Walloon region, and we started with 2 projects, and we selected 2 of those 14 efficient agents. And we also identified 3 substances that those 2 agents produce and that explain the efficiency in the field. So we established a proof of concept thanks to trials using Staffeed platform, the Proof Centrum from Condentel, and just to cite a couple. And with this proof of concept in the field, we want to make our ambition come true and offer our biofungicide products. And we want to offer alternative to pesticides in the respect of nature, of biodiversity, and we want to contribute to the implementation of a more healthy and more safe agriculture. And the development of sustainable agriculture is what gathers us today here and also brings together politicians in the world, in Europe, and it is highlighted by the evolution of the biopesticides products. So in the past, it was 3-5% in 2015, and in 2021, it was already 18%. And so this highlights the transition of the phytopharmaceutical industry. And to show how this transition is happening and to explain what our innovation is, let me briefly show you how the market could evolve. For a very long time, and it is still largely the case today, we are using production processes which are very well controlled, be it synthesis or mining, like metals, like copper, for example. And these processes show a high efficiency in the field, but the disadvantage is the environmental impact. And we can see the impact in the agricultural processes, but we also can find pollution in food. And for 40 years now, initiatives were created. So a first alternative to develop biopesticides got launched, and we tried to identify those bioorganisms. And the idea was to bring a lot of those bacteria, hoping that the plants and those organisms would survive in the fields, and that they then could produce the controlling agents so as to make agriculture happen. But it didn't work really well. It was not control. And so Bioxol wants to gain control again on those natural substances produced by those beneficial agents. And we want to offer a product which is not containing those microorganisms anymore, but offering this efficient agent. So it would be easier to store, it would be safer, it would be biodegradable in the soil, which is why we want to target diseases which are linked to that. And so today, Bioxol, what is it? We want to be a leader in the production of active substance from a microbial origin, and we want to have a high efficacy in the fields, and we want to use and to offer biopesticides which is easy to use for the end user. And we also want it to be not too expensive. And you need to think that the mildew is affecting a lot of various cultures, and we are looking for 4 million euros as equity, so as to launch the market authorization process and to start the development of the 3 further products. So market authorization for the 2 products we have, and developing 3 new ones. So I thank you for listening to me, and I would like to thank the partners and the Université Catholique de Louvain, and I would like to thank the Walloon region, thanks to the innovation projects and all the partners. Thank you, Simon.
Et des questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Very shortly, I believe that there are high stakes when it comes to production and production processes. So what is your strategy in that regard? And about the sales strategy, have you already thought about your sales model? Thank you very much. Very relevant questions. So our production model is what motivated in the last 3 years. We wanted to work without developing GMOs. We wanted to be able to produce the substance we were looking for. And we worked on production to organize trials in the field. And we produced like 1,500, 3,000 liters of our product to try them out. And our strategy when it comes to production, we are not going to produce ourselves, and so we decoupled the supply chain to protect our production processes. And about the marketing efforts, this is going to come later. We are not going to be a distributor and a marketer of those biopesticides. I believe other stakeholders are much better equipped. And so there will be strategies that will be implemented at the local level, like in the United States, for example, on the one hand, or in Europe on the other hand. And so we will work that way. Thank you very much. Also, I have 2 questions. First of all, could you talk about your rivals? So who's your competition? I already met a startup offering an alternative to biopesticides. And then could you give us some elements about the legal framework? How is it in Belgium? How is it in Europe? How is it evolving? So how is the legal framework evolving? I believe it is a little bit late when it comes to, or compared to the Green New Deal ambitions. And same with like when we compare the situation in American countries too. And so here we also want to use the funds we are going to raise to constitute our files and our applications, and we want to promote those products. And so it is necessary for AgriTech, but it's also necessary for biocontrol products. It is sometimes hard to hear for the investors, but here in the first years, we will need to talk about the toxicological and ecotoxicological conditions. And then we will need to organize trials per country. And so in Europe, there are 3 different areas, and we are going to adopt a global strategy so as to draft up an application that will be corresponding to the various regions and areas. Maybe a last one. Thank you very much. Maybe a last one. On the intellectual property, you're a spin-off, so I believe that IP is very important when it comes to valorization. So you're a spin-off of the University of Louvain. So who owns the intellectual property and how is it going to be dealt with? So UC Louvain, and as we talked about it from the start, the IP will be a license granted by the university in exchange for royalties that will be paid once we will get the turnover. So that's not going to be for now. And the IP was the object of a consultation and verification. And 4 pillars that will be developed when it comes to the protection of intellectual property. How are we going to manage to quantify the substances? It is not obvious for everyone, and very important for us, we need to work on specific ratios of those metabolism, explaining the activity and the synergy that we can gain from the use of those products. And then for phytopharmaceutics, like the protection of the ecosystems and how we can extend our activity. Thank you.
Now we'll switch to English with Chiara.
Merci.
Welcome. If you want to pass, to move, move and back.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chiara from the University of Ghent in Belgium. Currently, I'm a postdoctoral researcher, but I'm fully committed to start our spin-off company, BCOS. So, by 2050, we will be with 10 billion people. 10 billion people that expect a certain quality of life, both in developed but also in developing countries. And this increase our demands for sustainable protein with more than 76%. But at the same time, the European Union also asks us to reduce pesticide use by more than 50% by 2030. And this is very challenging as registration and approval of new biopesticides is very tedious, very time-consuming, and very costly. So how do we assure then resilient plants with minimized pesticide use and be able to feed everyone in a responsible and sustainable manner by 2050? So with BCOS, we offer microbial production and solution of defined and specific chito-oligosaccharides, or COS molecules, using bacteria. It's a process called precision fermentation, and it's very similar to brewing beer, but instead of using yeast, we use bacteria, and instead of producing ethanol, we produce the COS molecules. These COS molecules can then be sprayed over plants, but also added to animal feed, and in this way the farmer can focus on prevention over treating then infected or sick plants. Who is the team? So I'm Chiara, I have a PhD in bioscience engineering and now already a couple of years of experience in business development, and I focus on the commercial part. And then you have Walter, he will get his PhD in bioscience engineering and he focuses on the technological part. So why BCOS? So we are scalable and robust. So using the bacteria, we can produce a lot of COS molecules, but also a lot of specific and defined COS molecules in a reliable and in a continuous way. We can already produce 5 different molecules, 5 different specific molecules, and we already did some larger scale fermentations. And now we're currently looking to further improve the production and also expand our product portfolio. It's also sustainable because the bacteria not only grow on sugars, but they can also grow on local waste streams. For example, shrimp, insects, but also mushrooms, as this is a very big waste stream in Belgium and the Netherlands. And this way we try to fit into the circular bioeconomy. With BCOS, we are also very specific. So we can produce very specific and defined COS molecules because their structure is very specific for their activity. And in that way, we want to offer a tailor-made solution to a certain problem, and more specifically, give an exclusive product for our customer. And now we're working in the field and in the lab to test our product for soybean, tomato, and wheat cultivation. And this also important to say, this technology is already filed for 2 patent applications, and we're working on a 3rd one. It's also cost effective because using these tailor-made COS molecules produced with our bacteria, the farmer can focus on prevention over treating disinfected plants, hence decreasing the costs and increasing the profits. So we're looking for a strategic partner with whom we can then establish a license deal, and in that way then target the farmers. So what are we looking for? We're looking for money, of course, to maintain our IP, to file a new IP, to do R&D, hire personnel, establish these crucial partnerships, but also expand our lab experiments from the lab to in vivo trials. So why BCOS? Because investing in us is investing in your future. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. It's not clear to me if it's a biostimulant or biocontrol, and if it's biocontrol, which disease are you targeting?
It's a biostimulant, so it's known to improve the innate immune system and immune system of the plants. There are also biocontrol applications, but we're going first for the biostimulant application.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. My question was about the tailor-made aspect, because I see you have 3 products where you tested it on. In what way it's really tailor-made, and how does it relate to the scaling capabilities?
Yeah, so it's tailor-made as in that we produce a specific structure that the customer wants. So we already found out that depending on if it's a plant application or animal health application, that you need another COS molecule, another product. And in that opinion, with the bacteria, we know how to engineer them and which important genes or how we have to tweak the DNA that bacteria specifically produce that molecule. And in the end, the fermentation process, that's the same for every molecule or every product. The tricky part is in the downstream processing, that we can purify then the molecule that we want. But that's not the big bottleneck, as the bacteria already produce the specific molecule that we want with more than 90% purity. So in that way, we can decrease the production costs enormously. If that's a little bit clear.
Can I ask one follow-up question? Okay. Because does it mean that for every client you first start engineering on a customized basis and then be able to scale?
Yeah, no, that indeed what we do is a bit chicken and egg, but now we're really testing a whole range of different products and different molecules that we already identified that are interesting, so that indeed we can, when the customer comes to us with a certain problem, we can already say we have a portfolio or we have that kind of product that is then the solution. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any questions? No? Grazie mille. Maintenant, je vais appeler Franck Garnier pour...
Now I'm going to call on Franck Garnier for F-Green. Hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here. I'm Franck Garnier. I have a lot of experience in chemicals, in animal health, in big groups that you probably know, Aventis, BASF, and other major companies. And since 2019, I've been passionate by the development of solutions, and that led me to be the co-founder of EV Green that I will talk to you about now. So what is EV Green? What are we going to talk about? Well, in in animal health, you all know what is the avian flu. It is a global issue, and a couple of weeks ago, Brazil was impacted for the first time. And when we know the production capability and the number of chickens that come from Brazil worldwide, well, that's kind of worrying. You also know the need of reducing the use of antibiotics, and in agriculture, when it comes to vegetable production, with the reduction of synthesis products, we see more and more use gaps. And we see the appearance of various diseases. For example, the disease for olive trees in Europe that is also going to vine grape trees. So EV Green is developing new ways to fight isolated diseases or diseases that have a huge impact on animal health, by using very small molecules that are produced by microalgae and some plants too, that naturally contain a lot of things. For example, a very small RNA with antibacterial components that can be very useful. So these extra vesicles that are nano-size, we've known them for a very long time. They are naturally produced by almost all living bodies. But what is new in our project? Well, there are two things mostly. First of all, we know how to naturally develop them so that they can be used with their own antibacterial properties. We can also add them to other bioactive molecules such as peptides, small molecules, so that they can lead and deliver in the cells and in the tissues that are impacted in the plants and in the animals, and be as efficient as possible. And the second specificity of the project is our production capability. If we want to develop ways to fight diseases that we can really use for animal and vegetable health, then we need to be able to produce at scale. And so we need to choose some specific microalgae, such as the chlorella, that will help us consider a large-scale production of these vesicles and to produce them at low cost, well, affordable cost at least. So those are the two specificities of our project. And with that, what can we do? Well, we can focus on the development of vaccine production against avian flu, for example. There are several projects in the pipeline, but this vaccination strategy with extra vesicle would, for example, allow for vaccines that would be administered orally, because we are talking about small pieces of vegetables, of plants, that can be easily integrated to nutrition. We can also target in priority the treatment of some bacterial diseases in cattle, for example, mastitis. Mastitis today is difficult to treat because we want to reduce the use of antibiotics. So we could easily substitute antibiotics. In plant health, we can also fight against diseases for which today we have no solution at all. So there are several bacteria, for example, a bacteria in kiwis. We can also focus on crop diseases such as fusarium. for which we have absolutely no solution today. And then at the regulation level, we can also have the several substances that still exist. We can make them disappear. So that's a market that would represent several billion euros. We said it would be 12 billion euros at the global level because we really want to favor a global approach. As far as the team is concerned, I would like to ask my colleagues Lionel Navarro, who's the scientist of the team, at the head of all the scientific aspects, to stand up and join me on stage. So he's the head of Technological Institute of the École Normale Supérieure. He's a specialist of pathogens in life sciences. And then we have Denis Tardy, who's highly experienced in the industry as far as crops and agrochemical industry is concerned, because he held various positions in that field. So that's it for the team. Now, where are we and what do we want to do? Well, where we are? Well, we have intellectual property because before creating EV Green, there were academic collaboration programs with public funds that allowed us to get proof of concept. So the step for which we would need funding is a step that will allow us to strengthen our IP, to validate all proof of concept in planta and in vivo for animals, and also to precise and improve our processes, our industrial production processes. To do so, we need 3 million euros. That would be the funding that we would need for the 2 years to come. And then the next step after that would be the development of therapies with the funding of a Series A, and then the scaling up of the production. So this is, in a few words, what I wanted to say with EV Green. Thank you for your attention, and we are at your disposal for questions. Thank you, Frank. Does the jury have questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. I had a question on the regulation side of things for the go-to-market. I'm guessing it's a tedious process, so I was wondering if you could tell us more about it. What is your agenda? Yes, indeed. Regulations are the key on this kind of topic. We have in the team a scientist that masters everything from the technical point of view, and then we have 2 experts, because in our life we spent a lot of time working on validation of products. There were most of the time synthesis products, but not only, also biological products. Regulation is evolving, and I think what will be important is to position properly this new concept, nano extravesical, for animal and plant health. It's very difficult to answer your question because there are as many regulations as there are continents. And in North America, for example, it will be quite easy to face regulation files, while in Europe, to be completely honest, we will need to work on several elements, specific elements, and without going into details, the whole part on substances, the ones that will be produced naturally, that should not be an issue because we will be working on a plant that will not have been modified or or not really modified. But when we are going to talk about landoloning, so when we are going to introduce peptides, we might modify some organisms, so we will need a regulation approach that would be very determined and to be specified at the European level. And my apologies, but the speaker is speaking without the mic. There are several proteins or peptides that have activities in the lab, but that we cannot see in the field. Most of the time, because the protein or the peptide is degraded before reaching its target. So the interest of our products would be to protect the protein, the peptide, the RNA, or even the DNA, and will allow it to reach its targets in plants and in animals. And so that's really why this technology allowed for a breakthrough, because it will allow for the multiplication of biocontrol products, because products that worked well in the labs did not work well in the fields, and we hope that it will not be the case anymore. Last question. Yes, thank you. I was wondering, with 3 million euros, what do you have? Have you done a valorization of your company, and what do you expect from your partner? With 3 million euros, we have international intellectual property, and we have almost all proof of concepts that we would need to consider the development of therapies. Alors, we might be able to do some ourselves, we will, but we have started to reach out to some major corporations and groups, and they are very interested in co-development. There are many big groups today who developed bioactive molecules, but who cannot integrate them in formulations that will help them reach their targets. And we have managed to do so. So we, with that budget, we will have the intellectual property that will help us partner up with big groups and to get licenses and to develop therapy application. Can I ask one last question? Yes, but very quickly. We still have that time constraint. So what you have is a transport agent. So you mentioning that it targets some forms of diseases, but how does it work? I don't really understand this targeting. So that would be a question for you, sir. And then, have you already linked your transport agent to some existing molecules? If so, which ones? And yeah, that would be it. So these works come from academic research. So we did several proof of concept, for example, in the cells. And so these small vesicles will be moved, vehicled to specific organs in the animals. So naturally, that would be. So that will help us deliver a specific molecule. So we did specific proofs of concept for antibacterial RNAs, for example, and we can target bacterial diseases and decrease the pathogenicity of a disease, for example, of a bacteria. We can also weaken a virus and weaken its replication. So that's a very versatile technology. Why did we choose bacteria? Well, because animal health is obvious. We want to replace antibiotics. And why in agriculture? Well, because it's a real niche where there's no solution. So entering a market where there's no solution, it's always easier. Thank you very much. We will now leave the room to the following candidate, which is Frédéric Peilleron for Cascade.
Oui, bonjour. Bonjour à tous. Donc, je m'appelle Frédéric Pailleron. Je suis le fondateur et dirigeant.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm the founder of Cascade, which I created several years ago. So what do? We develop light conversion products to help with photosynthesis, to really boost photosynthesis. So a plant that will grow in a greenhouse will see, in this kind of greenhouse, we'll see more red and blue light, and so its growth will be boosted and its development will be better. That will lead to a better development of the culture. There are 5 people in our team at the moment. We have an experienced team in terms of management. I worked during 20 years on technology. I'm an engineer, and I also created an SME that I built up to 100 people. I created Cascade also, and I'm associated with an engineer in polymer chemical and chemistry, Christophe. And Christophe has been helping me to put the product on the market and to scale it up. We are working with several research labs as partners, the CEA, CNRS, INRAE for agronomy, and abroad as well, with testing stations in Spain, in Italy, and we also working in Northern Europe. 2 years ago, we launched our first offer, and so we now have a business team because the idea would be to go to market. It is a team of experienced and multilingual team to access several markets. We started with Spain and Italy, and next year we will go to Northern Europe. This technology was demonstrated. We've been working on it for 10 years now with several agronomic performances on several crops in different countries. We tested in Northern and Southern Europe. We have crop yields increased by more than 10%. We have improved plant health and resilience. Light helps the plants fight some diseases. In some cases, we also see a better quality of fruits and vegetables and a better quality of inputs, between 15 and 16% in some tests. So that's very interesting for farmers. Farmers will have 10% of benefits for a very low cost, so the added value is very interesting for them. The market is huge. We are talking about the market of greenhouses, so 1 million hectares on Earth, and the first target in our market will be the European market, because that's already our market today. That represents more than 400 million euros as turnover. And then across Europe, outside of Europe, there's first of all the US and Americas, and then China. But that will be a second step. Our technology has a global patent. We also have a patent for China, so we're ready to go to market. And today we have started working on our first sales 2 years ago with the first generation of products. The first generation of products, optical results for 1 season only. But that's not the majority of markets, because at the moment we want to go to greenhouses between 5 to 10 years. But we started in Andalusia with a first year of sale, post-COVID as well. And since we do not sell the whole protection sheet, we sell a product that can be added to the sheet in the greenhouses. Well, customers are very happy. They are waiting for our main product, which is a multi-season product. This technology is ready. Last year, we produced more than 300 meters of sheet with results confirmed in France and Spain. We have not launched it yet because we are in the process of scaling it up. This scaling up will be done by fall, and we will go to market at that moment as well. And so we will go from a limited market in Andalusia and Sicily to the whole European market. So the 400,000 euros that you can see on the screen at the moment. So what we are looking for today is 2.5 million euros to match a fund that we've already received from the European Investment Bank of the same amount. We want to go in two steps. The first step this year, 500,000, 1 million, that's to see with the investor, which will allow us to validate this multi-season project and launch it at the end of next year. And then a second step to complete, which can arrive 1 year later than that. So that's it for the presentation, and I remain available for all your questions.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. I switch to English. Two questions. First one is more practically to understand. Is it instead of a normal roof of greenhouses, or is it a sheet that you apply on the roof?
It's instead. I mean, instead of using a standard roof that does not have this optical effect, you replace by the same film, and that's important. It's a similar film. It doesn't change anything for the farmer. It does have to change to buy a film that includes our technology to get this light effect and agronomic benefits. So it's the same film. We adapt to the existing chain.
You adapt to?
To the existing value chain. It is the same, the producer film produce same film. Our product is ready to be used by film producers and then ready to be used by the farmer.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned it shortly in your presentation, but you say yield is up by more than 10% and water and nutrients reduced by 15%. How does that weigh to the cost of the shield?
This is a measure that we have 122 trials. This is measures that are done. Understand that this is average. Each trial has a different result. Sometimes much more, sometimes a bit less, sometimes more precocity or more yield. Really, what we have done on these 122 trials is we have validated different blue and red formulations. For example, we have a formulation for berries, which is not similar for the one for tomato. Tomato react more blue, and berries are okay with red. So we have adapted to group of light effect in different regions. And this is the result that we have obtained. Now, to be fully honest, in terms of physiology of plant, there's still much more to understand. When we were collaborating strong with INRAE and Research Institute in Italy, in Almeria, University of Almeria, to better understand how plants react. And this is new technology, so there's probably much more to optimize in the future. To understand why plant can produce more and consume less.
Si je peux rebondir sur ce qui...
And if I can come back to what has been asked, I think that the question was to know the cost of your film. What would be the additional cost in comparison to its cost efficiency? Have you made any efficiency calculations? Because that's what's interesting to the users. Yes, indeed. This is why we invested in marketing, because we need a product that can adapt to the existing product. We know that it's a lot of money for farmers, but a hectare in Andalusia is less than 80,000 euros of turnover. So this is what we can bring to a farmer in the south of Europe that will be a bit more in the north of Europe. The cost now is 1,000 euros per year and per hectare for this technology. So a benefit of 7, 8, 9 additional 1,000 euros for an investment of 1,000 euros. So 1,000 euros is both a lot and not really, because the farmer will need to buy their films at a higher cost. But here we are talking about a lot of farms, a lot of markets that are not really high-tech. Spain, Italy, I think it will be easier in the north of Europe, because they are used to investing in technology. We are investing a lot in marketing too, and this is why we only working with 2 film producers, because we collaborate with their distribution networks. So those who are going to sell the product is the filmmaker in the film producer. So we do a lot of marketing, we produce videos, we participate in events. We work with seed makers and users in Spain, for example. And so the idea would really be to speed up the acceptation of the technology, because it is ready. We just need to have it accepted by the market. I just have a quick question. Have you measured the impact on the health of people under the greenhouse? Well, under the film? If you increase the radiation of, well, we work on the environmental aspect with the lab of AgriTech. We have a project funded by ADEME. So all the safety aspects were considered. We did a life cycle analysis. It was very positive. Those are topics that are very close to our hearts. And if we have more time, we will talk about it in more details.
On va accueillir notre dernier pitcher.
Let's welcome our last speaker, Alexandre Bocage for FERRAND.
Hello, everybody. As a typical French, I will switch in French right now. Alors, pour parler
FERRAND, I like to talk about the genesis of the idea. How was it born? Together with Theo, who is one of the founders. We were at the engineer school, and we had to do an internship abroad for 6 months. And we are more coming from the industrial side of things, not really from agronomy. So that's why our prototype is of an industrial nature. And during our internship, I was in the States and he was in Spain. And by chance, we came into contact with vermicompost, so organic waste processing by worms. And we decided it could be useful. And by discussing and by reading about it and by studying it, we knew that we wanted to work on the sustainable aspects. And we discovered that vermicompost was renowned everywhere in the world for the agricultural advantages of it. The disadvantage is that you need big quantities of it before it is useful. And starting from there, together with Theo and Alexandre Foulon, we decided to found FERRAND, and we put everything in the title: Ver, worm, and agro for agronomy, and grow for growing. And so we are 3 friends coming from an engineering school, but we have 3 different sets of skills. So business, research and development, and production. And Alexandre is not here today because he's taking care of 5 million of earthworms in Normandy. And those are the only French who do not go on strike, so it's very easy to work with them. So small link reference to news. And so we are small, 3 staffers, us 3, and we have a dozen of apprentices and interns. And so we have a couple of dozen people to develop Veragro. We were created less than 4 years ago. We went through incubators, the French Tech grants, and we have a capacity of 300,000 liters yearly. And we innovated several times. So you need to produce vermicompost with worms regularly. And so we created a constant vermicompost flow, so machinery, and then we use those millions of worms, and then behind that we have this final liquid product that comes from the degradation of the waste, and then you can use that liquid on the seeds. You can use it as a complement to nitrogen fertilizers too, and you can use it as a spray for foliage. So 3 different types of products. So you have VeraLeaf, Verasol, and Veraspida. They have been authorized in France. So we managed to do that before the first fundraising. We have 2 market authorization on the French market with VeraLeaf and Veraspida. And the soil preparation product is still under experimentation. As you know, France is very fast when it comes to regulation. And so we are still ongoing on that product. What are the advantages? It's like biostimulants advantages. I have a lot of colleagues who work on the same thematic, but we are unique because we work with the waste of the worms. We have raw materials that are free, that are very numerous. So we have coffee mark, for example. We have horse industry waste and organic waste, and the worms eat and process those products, and we use that to have our final product. So we have a lot of initial resources, and we also have an immediate effect that can be measured by the farmer's eyes, and then everybody who knows, who has put his hands in the soil, he knows that when you talk about earthworms, it's natural, it's efficient, and it's good for the earth. And we know that this solution is low cost and also follows an agronomy logic for the farmer. So we just raised €1 million. We managed to mobilize through awards, through applications and subsidies. We mobilized €1.03 million, so which allowed us to organize 2 years of in-field experimentation. And now we also raised 1 million in equity, and then we are close to the 2 million of equity thanks to additional subsidies. And we are also aiming at other projects, and we want to target like rapeseed, wine grapes, and other cultures. So why are we asking 5 to 10 million euros? So last year we had several experimentation with prospects like distributors, retailers, negotiators, and today we are aiming at 95 cooperatives and other stakeholders who are testing our products. So depending on what is going to happen in the low season, we will calculate our production capability, which is needed, and in consequence we will be able to know how big we need to get. And in Veragro, our products are 100% France-made, and the inputs come mainly from France, but also from Belgium. Our team is quite young. We received a lot of outside input, Hectare, BACA, Village, and advisor from the BPI for the Deep Tech project, because we were labelized Deep Tech. So that's for Veragro. So if there are investors here, please stay in touch, not for today, but for the 12 to 18 next months. And of course, if you have any questions, I remain at your disposal. Good afternoon. I think I already asked you a lot of questions, but I would like to come back to the production aspects, because you went from the production, the earthworm, and the final product, so the vertical process. scalability is resource intensive, so I would like to know, how are you going to scale up? What are the costs and the costs linked to the risk? We are talking about earthworms. We sometimes talk about the difficulties linked to insect breeding. Sometimes the insects' eggs do not survive and then the whole production goes to waste. So what are the risks on your part, and could it threaten your whole production? It is true. So the vermicompost production is at the key of our product, and so the earthworms are the core of our production. Earthworms are very resilient. They do not have any known disease. They reproduce up to 500 times a year. They live between 6 to 8 years. And when you cut one in two, not two parts are being born, but one part survives. And so the risk of loss is quite reduced. And next to that, we industrialize the production of vermicompost, indirectly the reproduction of the earthworms. And so every day we increase the presence of earthworms. So we started with 200,000 worms, so 40,000 worth of earthworms. And I think that today we own like earthworms whose value goes up to 500,000 euros. And our earthworms are not at risk, and they are in a basement in a semi-controlled environment. No predators, stable temperature, constant feeding, and very stable type of food. So up to now, we haven't experienced any loss in Earth. And so 300,000 liters. If we were running 7 days a week, we would go up to 500,000 liters. And so that's all very stable. And so we have an industrial pilot that is very efficient. And so if we raise 5 to 10 million euros, we will need to optimize the whole process, but we will have quite an important production capability. And to go back to circular economy and the new global dynamic, we don't want to only have one company or one company in Normandy, but to have like one big production site per continent, using the local waste, using the local worms, and so on. Thank you very much, Alexandre. Only one question for me. A last one, but we should not run too late. Thank you very much. It's always very nice to hear the story behind the creation of those companies. I wonder about the efficiency of the final project. So yeah, we have the story of the earthworms and processing waste, but have you heard about the efficiency rate? And so vermicompost, you are not the only ones to do that. Do your products show any specificity? Is there anything special that you do during your process? Can you protect that specificity or not? So that's a lot of questions, actually. That's 2 or 3 hidden questions. So we have the innovation, the liquefaction, the liquid making. So one part is patented already, and the other is undergoing the patent process. So yes, there are many stakeholders who do vermicompost, and sometimes you have to make the difference. There's like the naturally occurring liquid coming from the waste, and it is not what we do. So we add inputs, 3 categories of them, on top of the vermicompost. So maximizers of these liquid parts and the efficiency, and we also have other bio-sourced agricultural product that we use to increase efficiency. And so now we are in the 3rd year of in-field experimentations. 30 euros per hectare for one type of grain for an agriculture, and it can go up to 150 euro per hectare for potatoes or a type of wine grapes. And there's a 3 to 5% increase in the yield. We are also thinking about water capture and reduction of nitrogen and optimizing of the use of inputs. And so for cereal, 5% increase, and for rapeseed and potato increase up to 20%. And so for a dozen of hectares, we know that last year potato production was not so good in France, but for those who use or tested our product, they increased their gains by 1,000, 2,000 euros. So we have a distributor in France, so there is a first line of marketing, and we have one distributor who will put 30,000 liters of our product. And we have only been operational since the beginning of the year, but we can see that we already have one distributor. Thank you very much.